What if Tomura Shigaraki was a hero? Before anything, we obviously need to make sure he never becomes connected to All for One, because that's one of the biggest points in the original story. We need to make sure he actually controls his quirk during his awakening, so he doesn't kill his whole family and can actually stay on the hero path he always wanted. Anyway, I think for sure the entire timeline would change a lot, so let's get right into it. Tomura Shigaraki only turned evil because of what happened at his house. His dad abused him, hated heroes, and every time Tomura said he wanted to be one, his dad would punish him and throw him outside. All that trauma is what pushed him into rage, and that rage is exactly why his quirk awakening murdered the dog first, and then the rest of his family. He hated his dad, and everything in that house destroyed him mentally. But in this what if, Tomura's mom actually steps up before any of that can happen. Just like in the original story, where she tried to run away with her parents and take the kids, in this timeline, she does it sooner. She doesn't wait until things get bad. She takes Tomura, his sister, and the rest of the family out of the house early, because she doesn't want that life for her kids. Now, his quirk awakening is still extremely dangerous. Decay can kill anything he touches, and even when it first activated in canon, he destroyed an entire house by accident. So yes, it's still going to be hard to avoid hurting someone, but the difference here is, he's not filled with rage anymore. His awakening was triggered by overwhelming stress, fear, and anger. But in this timeline, he's in a calm and safe place, with his mom, his grandparents, and his sister. His dad isn't hurting him, so that built-up hatred never comes out. So instead of Decay going wild on his whole family, it would probably show up in a smaller way, like him accidentally decaying a toy, or maybe something darker like his dog again, something that shows the quirk is there, but without the emotional rage explosion that wiped out the whole house. His mom would notice it immediately because she's always with him, and instead of ignoring it or hiding it, they take him straight to a hospital. And honestly, this wouldn't be the first time doctors have seen a dangerous quirk like this. Look at Eri's quirk. Destructive quirks exist, so the doctors would already have procedures to help kids control them. So they teach Tomura what Decay does, how to control it, how to not kill anyone, and how to avoid activating it by accident. With support and training instead of abuse and stress, Tomura actually learns how to live with his quirk without hurting anyone. This sets him on the hero path he always wanted from the start. Now, with his home being safe and him actually getting to play with friends and wanting to be a hero, he grows up completely different. He's in a safe environment, he's not scared, and he's not being abused. His dad in the show was a really successful businessman. I don't exactly know how this works in Japan, but here in America, if you get divorced, you usually get half of what the other person has. So Tomura's mom would probably be set whether she divorces him or just keeps the kids away from him and doesn't let them see him much. Either way, Tomura grows up wanting to become a hero, idolizing All Might instead of hating him. He super wants to be a hero, but his quirk is dangerous, and people realize that, so he doesn't really use it when he's little. Once he reaches school age, he joins UA, kind of like a recommended student, the same way Todoroki did. Now personally guys, I think Overhaul's quirk is way better than Decay, because Overhaul can break stuff and rebuild it. Decay is insanely powerful, especially if boosted, but Overhaul has that rebuilding part which makes it super useful. But anyway, Tomura joins UA, and these are mainly the people that would be in the classes around him. Mentat Lady, the very tall woman who turns into a giant. She fought Gigantomachia and stuff like that. She's around Tomura's age, so she's a good shot at being in his class. Kamui Woods, pretty sure that's his name. The guy you see in Season 3, during the League of Villains raid with All Might. That was the arc where All Might lost his final powers. Kamui was the one grabbing villains with all his wood techniques. He's around the right age to be a hero before Tomura, but still close. Edgeshot. He's the ninja-looking hero who can make his body into tiny strings. He's most likely a hero before Tomura, but again, similar age range. Death Arms. Honestly, I didn't like his character much. He's the guy with the blue shirt and the yellow and black striped gauntlets. When they raided the Liberation Army at the hospital, he was the one rounding up all the heroes that were secretly part of the Liberation Army. Burnin, Endeavor's sidekick. She's the girl with the green fire hair who helped Todoroki in the Todoroki vs. Dabi fight. Pixie Bob, or Mentat Lady, the cat girl hero from the Wild Pussycats, or Mentat Lady. Since this is a what if, one of them could realistically be in Tomura's age group and end up in his UA class. Now, just to go over the ages, so this makes sense, Tomura Shigaraki is 20 years old in the main story. That is 4 years older than Deku. Deku, Izuku Midoriya, is 16, first-year student. Aizawa, Eraserhead, is 30 to 31 years old, so about 10 years older than Shigaraki. Mirio is a first year when Tomura would be a third year if Tomura grew up normal. Mirio is part of the Big Three, and is 18 when Tomura is 20 in the main story. So in this What If, Tomura is basically just finishing his last year at UA, right when Mirio and the rest of the Big Three are coming in. Now in his training with UA, Tomura would be working mainly on learning how to control his quirk even more. You know those gloves Deku uses for his air pressure attacks? Tomura would get gloves like that too, basically limiter gloves, so he can control how much he touches during training. His whole UA training sessions would focus on controlling exactly what he decays, making sure he doesn't decay people, and keeping things safe. If you guys remember the hero from Class B who got a recommended spot, Juzo, he softens the ground and can re-harden it. I think Tomura would use his quirk in a similar style. He can decay stuff behind him to slow down villains, decay parts of the ground to trap people, and basically control the terrain. With the limiter gloves, he can help way more. He can decay one big piece of rubble to save someone, or break down obstacles without harming anyone. And with enough practice, he'd learn how to decay using just one finger instead of his whole hand. So he could choose whether to decay one finger, 3 fingers, or the full hand, basically limiting his quirk the same way the gloves limit his touch. Now obviously we need to get into his special moves. Since he has control now, instead of decay spreading everywhere, he can touch the ground and create a decay line straight toward a villain, trapping them underground. If a villain is chasing him, he can decay the ground in a line behind him to slow them down or cut off their path. If villains have support gear or equipment, Tomura can touch the ground or touch them, and specifically only decay the gear after all his UA training. So he's not destroying their bodies, just their equipment. After graduating UA, this is where things start changing. Since Tomura Shigaraki is now in UA and doing good, All For One's entire plan falls apart. He originally wanted Shigaraki because he is All Might's master's grandson, but now that Tomura is safe, All For One goes to his backup plan, which is Dabi, trying to use Dabi as his final weapon or final body. Tomura would have faced Dabi earlier, and honestly, I think UA would have a much easier time. There would be no leader for the League of Villains, so the USJ attack would never happen. Without Tomura, the League basically doesn't exist. You might say Dabi could lead it, but Dabi barely even wanted to talk to All For One. He came back of his own will, and he doesn't really care about All For One's full plan. Now with all that said, we still have time before the final battle, so here's how Tomura's life mostly goes. Since Tomura is doing amazing at UA, Best Jeanist would probably pick him up as his official sidekick. Jeanist would see that Tomura's quirk is kind of like his, not in the exact way, but it's still a controlling type quirk. Jeanist can control threads, Tomura controls decay. Jeanist is also a top 3 hero, and since Bakugo trained under him in the main story, I think Tomura becoming his sidekick would help him a lot before anything major starts happening. Now let's go over some ages. So, Tomura Shigaraki graduates at age 18. His first year as a sidekick is around 19. He becomes his own pro hero at 20 years old. And right now in the timeline, Deku is in his first year of UA. Now, with All For One trying to make Dabi his successor, Dabi is just straight up denying all of that. Even in Season 7, he didn't want an extra quirk from him. So the short answer is no. Dabi is not going to be his successor. The only thing Dabi wants is to destroy Endeavor. He would do that his own way, probably using people from the Vigilantes villains area, like in the original timeline. But they're not branded like that anymore in this What If. He would just make his own path, trying to destroy Endeavor the same way as always. Everything with the Todoroki family still happens the same way, and All For One's manipulation on Dabi would probably last a little bit longer. But All For One would still eventually have to find a different successor. Meanwhile, with Deku's hero journey going different in this timeline, since there's no League of Villains attacking UA, Deku would be gaining more abilities faster and becoming a hero way earlier, instead of having to fight a bunch of battles and lose his powers along the way. So that's basically what would happen here. And Tomura Shigaraki would barely even meet Izuku Midoriya. He would become a pro hero and save people just like he always wanted. He'd become rich and famous from it. He'd probably be on the Billboard chart, but since his quirk isn't the most clean for rescue work, I think he'd be somewhere around top 8 or top 10 if he really tries his best and builds a big agency. And honestly, even if the final battle comes, Shigaraki wouldn't really be that helpful in that specific fight, since decay isn't the safest quirk to use in a war. but he'd still be doing his hero job. So I hope you guys really liked this video. Let me know if you want to see, what if Deku had all his abilities from the start and started training with them right away? Because I think that would be way better. And click on this video right here for my Demon Slayer content.